Honorable Nakadama, you need to listen to this. When members of Parliament are asking questions, they are asking for solutions. In most cases, they are raising problems. There is this problem, but the Right Honorable Nabanja has done very well of late because she even gives orders there on the floor. That's the experience we've had. She's been an unorthodox lead of government business. I'll tell you, the Right Honorable Rugunda will say, did you say, is it right? It is not right. Then he sits. Because that's what you would ask. People would ask questions, then he gives them the answers there and then. So you need to be careful how you ask the question. If you want something to be done, ask a question to the extent that the Prime Minister knows you want action. But also the Prime Minister should know that when members are raising questions, they want action. But what the practice I've seen with the Right Honorable Nabanja in Parliament is that he has been even ordering ministers, do a BCD, there and then. It's a little bit unorthodox, but it delivers results sometimes. So the rules, if you're asking questions, please don't just ask any question. In Busoga, we say, ena haule. Sorry, in Chapadola, they say, ena haule. But don't ask a question anyhow. Ask the question which requires action. And then the Prime Minister should know there is an action. And if it's not done, then you can hold the Prime Minister responsible for with the non-taking of the action. I'll be around to answer any other question. The clerk has asked me to start around the afternoon. In case you have any and I have not answered, please.
Thank you.
And when I come back next time, there was a question from the Honorable Mole Kamkama. I have received it. I'll answer it then.
Thank you very much, Honorable Katuntu. Again, we join hands to thank him for answering our questions. Mr. Odeke, please come forward and guide us on the next program to follow.
Thank you, sir. And thank
Hold
you.
on, the Right Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Katuntu, I switched off this in here. But about the evidence-based research, I think Honorable Katuntu, go back and how were you using the 2 minutes? And then you managed to be one of the finest members of Parliament. You should answer that question. I think came from Buchigai in relation to time. How can you use the 2 minutes to speak sense in Parliament?
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. The answer I'm going to give is not arithmetic. 1 + 1 is 2. Don't rise to talk except when you are clear on what you want to say. Please, because you are going to be caught by time. 2, don't meander in preambles. Because you meander in preambles, before you could reach the point, you'll be caught by time. 3, it's about research. Once you stand up and you give the presiding officer comfort, if you speak about what you know, but you meander around and around, and then eventually when you want to talk, they have switched off the microphone. So you need to learn to be speaking precisely and concise. Don't please. It doesn't help. And you give the speaker, because he's got to manage 500 people wanting to contribute. However Jesus, like he is, I know he's a Christian, the current presiding officer. It's not possible to give you all of you 20, 30 minutes. Where will we get that time? And you can imagine these practical situations. 50 of you stand up at the same time, and he has 1 hour. 50 have stood up, and all of you want to speak for 10 minutes. Where will you get that time? So right from now, just know that the speaker does not have all the time to give you to talk. So if you stand up, please stand up on what you know, what we call evidence-based. Don't indulge in irrelevancies, and please be precise. I am great, Right Honorable Speaker. The last 5 years I've been the chairperson of the Rules Committee. I tried to address it in the rules. I failed. Because there are members who are gifted. Within 3 minutes, they can make a point. The others who are not, he can only make a point after 10 minutes. Can I say something which, there is only one person I can harass in this hall. It is the Honorable Fonopono. You see, when we are growing up, we would try to befriend the other people, the other gender. But then others, before they make the point, they take a whole 2 hours. Then you have a smartphone Opondo who takes 1 hour to 20 minutes to make a point. So that is also natural, that there are people, Right Honorable Speaker, you have to forgive. He wants to make a point, but he's dragging. Yes, he has an idea, but put it precisely, and in that short time, he doesn't have that talent, that skill. So the presiding officer has to do a little bit of balancing. But the more he studies you, the more he will know that when he picks the Honorable Minister, he knows that she will make a point in a short time. When you pick the Honorable Anyakun, you know that one takes time. So he might give another 1 or 2 minutes, but eventually she will make the point. So there is no arithmetic answer about it, but it is a very big challenge because the numbers we have today, they are too big for the presiding officer to give you all the time. And you eventually blame the presiding officer. The speaker does not give us time, but he doesn't have it. Realistically, you are too many. We are too many as parliament. So he has got to balance, but please try to speak about what you know. And then the leaders should also try to do this. The leader of government business and the leader of opposition. You try to engage your members to see who can have the best shot in your group. And then you whisper to the speaker, I say, I want these sort of members of mine to be given some time. I'm sure the speaker will do that. Because sometimes these issues are of national importance and they mean to the parties. So both the government chief whip can approach the speaker and the leader of opposition or the opposition whip, say, look here, I have these members of mine, you must give them, you must see them. In parliament, we say you've caught the speaker's eye. So you tell the speaker, please let your eyes see Katuntu. I think that's the way you can handle it, Right Honorable Speaker, but I understand it's a very big challenge.
Thank you very much. And we did that. We did that, and I want to commend the leader of opposition and the government chief whip. Sometimes the choices I make is rehearsed. So you have to know that. You have to work with your team. Depending on the subject matter, your leaders get to know who can say what on this subject, and did they pass on the information. Please make sure these people speak on this subject. They can say 6 people, and then the rest can be open to others. So thank you very much, Honorable Katuntu. That's why you were the finest. Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And thank you, Honorable Katuntu. Thank you, Honorable Asimwe. Honorable members of Parliament, we are hard-pressed for time. So this is what we would like to do. We'd like to break for lunch, and would like to keep that lunch within about 40 to 45 minutes. Lunch is going to be at the poolside terrace you can go through the back doors, in which instance they will give you coupons so that you can access your lunch. Alternatively, if you go through the main doors, there'll be teams there to give you coupons and direct you to where the lunch is on the left-hand side. Secondly, for those members of parliament who have not yet picked their iPads, and this is especially the ministers, we have brought the iPads to Kabalega Hall. During the lunch break, you may pick them from Kabalega Hall. And your IDs are ready, and when you return from lunch, you can always find them at the tables. We would like to return here before 3 p.m. because the papers that we have this afternoon are really important. So can we now break for lunch and return before 3 p.m.? Thank you very much.
Asian community won position on LegCo, but the Asians declined, saying one member could not represent them adequately. Five years later, the Asian community reconsidered.
Thank you.
And on 28th May 1926,
members of parliament, especially those in the middle, please go through the doors at the back. There are teams that will guide you, and it will be quicker and easier for you to access the lunch area. Please have your tags visible, and they shall give you coupons as you get to the exit doors. Thank you.
They rotate among the prime ministers of the three Western Uganda kingdoms. Busoga, Bugisu, Bukedi and Teso were represented by the Honorable Yokonia Zirabamuzale, Secretary General of Busoga, but representation would rotate among the Secretaries General of these Eastern Uganda constituencies. And at last, in 1949, the first native Ugandan representative for Northern Uganda, the Honorable Anthony Opua, entered Legico.
Official records at Parliament Library show that by 1955, LegCo membership had risen to 60, but there were still no signs of actual democratic representation via elections. It must, however, not be forgotten that Uganda was still a British colony. The constituencies of the Legislative Council were still defined by race and social status rather than political organizations. That is to say, European colonial administrators, European notables outside the administration, then Asians, and much later on Africans representing their tribes or regions. It was certainly a not yet Uhuru situation.
You will certainly wonder why this period records no political party activity and may even assume that there were no parties. But in 1952, Ignatius Kangave Musazi unveiled the Uganda National Congress, and 2 years later, in 1954, the Democratic Party was formed with Joseph Kasolo as President General. As we shall subsequently show, these two parties would play a crucial part in the development of Uganda's parliament. In 1958, Colonial Governor Sir Frederick Crawford appointed Sir John Bowles Griffin to be Speaker of the Legico. Griffin, who had earlier served as Chief Justice of the Uganda Protectorate, began presiding over council meetings instead of the governor. Indeed, Uganda's modern parliament was emerging.
In 1958, Ugandans directly elected their representatives to the LegCo for the first time, except in Buganda, Ankole, Bugisu, and Karamoja. The other LegCo members were still appointed by authority of the governor, but the seed of directly electing representatives had been planted. 1961 was another watershed in the story of Parliament, for it is when the Uganda People's Congress and the Democratic Party first faced each other in a national election. The Kabaka's government of Buganda boycotted the exercise, but DP and the colonial government urged all citizens everywhere to participate. Kabaka's government accused Governor Crawford's appointment of a LegCo speaker contrary to the provisions of the 1955 Buganda Agreement, but Buganda lost the case. DP's victory in Buganda was made easier because of the directive of Kabaka's government to his subjects to boycott these elections. Of Buganda's 36,000 eligible voters, it is said that about 4 or 5% actually registered. As a result, DP won 20 of Buganda's 21 seats. Some DP candidates were returned unopposed, while others won with very few votes.
Of the 82 Legiko constituencies demarcated, Benedicto Kiwanuka's Democratic Party won 43, Apollo Milton Obote's Uganda People's Congress 35, Ignatius Musazi's Uganda National Congress just 1, while 2 of those elected were independents. The fact that UPC had won 35 seats outside Buganda, which was 12 seats more than the victorious DP's 23 seats outside Buganda, did not go unnoticed. Its significance would emerge sooner than later.
Kiwanuka realized the danger of an unhappy Buganda and promised to allay Kabaka Mutesa's concerns as a matter of first priority. However, Kiwanuka and his DP were still supervised by the colonial authorities, led by the Chief Secretary, who was the equivalent of Prime Minister. In addition to the Speaker, the crucial portfolios of Finance and Attorney General were still in colonial hands. However, Uganda's first elected government leaders were the following:
Benedicto Kiwanuka, Minister without portfolio and leader of Legislative Council. John Chrysostom Kiwanuka, Minister of Education. David Chisada Nabeta, Minister of Health. Basil Bataringaya, Minister of Local Government. C. Patel, Minister of Commerce. Balam Mukasa, Minister of Agriculture and Animal Industry. Matayo Mugwanya, Minister of Lands and Water Resources. Stanley Bemba, Minister of Labor and Social Development. Nicholas Opio, Minister of Works. Lawrence Sebalu, Minister of Economic Development.
On 2nd July 1961, the elected Ben Kiwanuka assumed the title Chief Minister and replaced the appointed Chief Secretary, who had been the equivalent of Prime Minister in the LegCo. The first international assignment involving Uganda's directly elected legislators was the Uganda Independence Debate, which saw them flying to Britain for the famous Lancaster Conference. Among them was Uganda's first Chief Minister, Benedicto Kiwanuka, and Uganda's first leader of opposition, Apollo Milton Obote. Together with them were several other LegCo members.
On 1st March 1962, Uganda attained what was called internal self-government, which was one step away from full independence. On that day, Uganda's 41-year-old Legislative Council henceforth came to be known as the National Assembly. The old practice of parliamentary business being dominated by appointed ex-officio legislators also ended, and Benedicto Kiwanuka graduated from being Uganda's first Chief Minister to Uganda's first Prime Minister. Uhuru was very, very close.
On 10th March 1962, the National Assembly was dissolved paving way for fresh national elections in which Buganda Kingdom had agreed to end its boycott and take part. But the condition was that it is only its directly elected Luchiko which would indirectly elect Buganda's MPs to the National Assembly. During the Lancaster Constitutional Conference, Benedict Chiwanuka and DP had opposed this demand from Buganda, but had lost the effort. The Kabaka's displeasure with Chiwanuka and DP would soon manifest itself in the election held on 25th April 1962. The new Kabaka Yeka, king-only party, secured all the 21 Buganda seats and formed an alliance with Obote's UPC, which had won 37 seats outside Buganda, while DP had secured only 24.
On 1st May 1962, Milton Obote's UPC formed the government that would lead Uganda into independence on 9th October and after.
This is the time to work for Uganda. This is the time to follow Obote. This is the time to work for Uganda. This is the time to follow. Oh, Uganda! Uganda way! UPC! 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 Everybody! Everyone! All of us!
One of the first things the 92-member National Assembly did was to elect a speaker rather than have one appointed as in the past. And the lucky man was none other than Sir John Griffin, who had been Legico Speaker since 1958. The tradition of electing a speaker from directly elected MPs would come later. Before we continue this journey into the composition of Uganda's parliament, let us explore the facilities which our legislative ancestors have used since the 1920s.
In order to respond to the changing requirements of modernity in a fast-moving world, Uganda is putting up a new structure for its legislature at Parliament Avenue. When complete, the facilities here will make parliamentary work even more efficient. However, that is a story for another day. Many Ugandans who see this new structure climbing into the skies beside the old Parliament building might think that legislative business in Uganda began at Parliament Avenue in Kampala. That is not true. Evidence available at our Parliament Library shows that the first session of the Uganda Legislative Council, or LEGCO, sat in the High Court buildings at Entebbe on 23 March 1921. It soon moved to Entebbe Town Council chambers. For the record, Entebbe, whose official name was Port Alice, was the political and administrative capital of the Uganda Protectorate. The colonial commissioners and governors worked and lived there, and to the present day, Uganda's State House is where it was when Great Britain colonized Uganda. Records in our Parliament Library show that LegCo moved to Kampala in 1945 after the end of the Second World War. Its new home was the High Court buildings, which still look elegant to date. This coincided with the increase in number of members and the appointment of the first 3 African Ugandans to the LegCo. Although this may not have been the reason for the migration, it is logical to believe that the inclusion of African and Asian members who were not residents of Entebbe, like the Europeans, may have influenced the decision. In 1950, the LegCo shifted to what we today know as City Hall, Kampala, and continued legislating from the very place where today's Kampala councillors conduct business. Parliament came to its present premises in 1960, and the official account in our library best describes the event. Let us read it. On 19th September 1960, all Legislative Council members, headed by a Sergeant-at-Arms, the Clerk, and the Speaker, moved in procession to their new premises, which had just been completed in the center of the country's capital. On that date, Uganda's Parliament House was formally inaugurated by the Secretary of State for the Colonies, Sir Ian MacLeod. Parliament House on Parliament Avenue, Kampala, was constructed following a resolution in the LegCo of 19th October 1956. It was to be a home for the legislature with offices for ministers and their respective. In 1959, this project was stiffly opposed by the Buganda Luchiko at Mengo. Why? Opposition to the new legislature came at a time when Buganda's demands for her own separate independence had just been summarily dismissed by Britain as impractical. It was also the period when Kabaka's government had declared that it would not participate in the coming LegCo elections, but the colonial authorities insisted that this would be in breach of the 1955 Buganda Agreement. A Luchiko member, Dr. Emmanuel Lumu, furiously stated,
"We have shown our dislike for this mere legislative council. How about something as big as a parliament? If we allow this building, we shall have surrendered ourselves to our enemies."
In response, however, the governor assured Luchiko members that the new parliament could not harm Buganda. He reminded them that ever since LegCo shifted from Entebbe, it had been sitting in Kampala for 13 years, and they had never opposed its presence. Luchiko member Bildad Muonge's response to the governor was loudly cheered when he observed that
"We don't oppose the construction of government offices at all. What we oppose is the construction of more than one parliament in Buganda. As a custom, this parliament will also have a throne for Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, and this we cannot tolerate because we have our Kabaka."
The governor then reminded Luchiko members that the 1955 Buganda Agreement had provided for all these developments and that there was no conflict over the roles of LegCo and of the Luchiko. He assured members that he saw no threat to the authority of Buganda Luchiko in constructing a building for parliament in Kampala and stressed that the political future of the Uganda Protectorate in general and of Buganda Kingdom in particular lay in their active participation in LegCo matters. With those assurances, thousands of Ugandans, including Buganda, lined the streets as Sir Ian MacLeod arrived to open the new building on 19th September 1960.
Let us look at the distinguished ladies and gentlemen who have presided over Parliament since Uganda's independence in 1962. In 1962, Uganda's first parliament elected Sir John Boyce Griffin as Speaker. He had also been Speaker for the Legislative Council from 1958. The Deputy Speaker was Serwano Kurubya, and both gentlemen did not represent any constituencies, having been specially nominated under the laws prevailing at the time. Ill health persuaded Honorable Griffin to resign in 1963. Parliament then elected Mbali Town Uganda People's Congress MP Narendra Patel as Speaker. Narendra Patel also presided over Uganda's second parliament from 1966 until General Idi Amin Dada's military coup of 1971 abolished parliamentary democracy. Kurubya continued as deputy speaker until 1964 when he resigned, allowing for the election of Busoga North Uganda People's Congress MP Adonia Lwerere Nume. Illness forced Deputy Speaker Nume to resign in 1970, and he was replaced by Kigezi East UPC MP Nathan Bisamunyu.
On the 25th of January 1971, the Uganda Army overthrew President Milton Obote, replacing him with Army Commander Major General Idi Amin Dada. Among his first major decisions was the suspension of parts of the 1967 Uganda Constitution and, more important, the dissolution of Parliament. The People newspaper of 3rd February 1971 reported as follows.
Whereas on the 25th day of January 1971, the armed forces of Uganda took over the powers of the government of the Republic of Uganda and vested those powers in me, Major General Idi Amin Dada, now, pursuant to such powers, I hereby proclaim: 1. Chapters 4 and 5 of the Constitution are suspended, and all appointments and offices excepting public offices held immediately before the 25th day of January 1971, pursuant to the powers contained in those chapters, are hereby terminated with effect from that date. 2. All the titles, privileges, prerogatives, powers, functions, and exemptions formerly enjoyed or exercised by the former President of the Republic of Uganda under the Constitution are hereby vested in me. 3. Parliament is hereby dissolved, and all legislative powers referred to in the Constitution are hereby vested in me. 4. All legislative powers shall be exercised by me through the promulgation of decrees evidenced in writing under my hand and sealed with the public seal.
And with that, Uganda's parliament was placed in limbo for the next 8 years. After dissolving it indefinitely, President Amin posed for the camera with the ousted members and staff of parliament. To emphasize that civilian politics was over, the icon of Dr. Milton Obote, that was suspended above the main entrance to Parliament, was hauled down as the crowds cheered and jeered. However, Parliament House was not closed. It accommodated the Justice Ministry and was for a long time also Uganda Police Headquarters. The People newspaper of 23rd February 1971 again reported the following.
The President of Uganda, General Idi Amin Dada, repeated it yesterday that the military government will hand over power at the earliest opportune moment. The General said this in reference to a suggestion over the weekend by officers and men of the Uganda Army and Air Force that his government should stay in power for at least 5 years. The General explained yesterday in a statement that as soon as the work of the Commission of Inquiry is complete and the military government has had the chance to put the affairs of this country in order, general elections will be held. This task might take a period much less than 5 years, the General said.
Later, in 1971, when he met Buganda elders in Kampala City Hall, General Amin did not mince words about his plans for Uganda's political future.
One of the reasons I include the former ministers and the councillors in this conference is to warn all of them that for as long as political activity is suspended, they should stop all political activity. I have said many times, and I repeat now, that politics can be a dangerous game unless properly played at the right time. It is my view that while we are preoccupied with the problem of consolidating our country, doubling production, political activity is unnecessary. I want to make it clear to all people in Uganda that my government is not based on political parties. It is not DP, BTC, or Kabakaika. It is a military government serving all the people of Uganda. Kale tutagala kugendera bya politics yatenga buli day mu kubira abantu bayogera wano bya politics ebintu ebyo ffe tutudde kubikiriza ab'emagi bali wano n'okubadde ne prison n'okubadde nze siriho tibajja kukkiriza politics egendewo okutuusa bwe balirowooza nti Uganda kati eteeredde bulungi kale gavumenti y'amagi eyinza kuba erinankani abe politics gavumenti. Wali muntu kulowooza waliwo abantu bagenda pukupuku nti amagi gajja kuwa gavumenti ku mwezi bbiri ku mwaka gumu ku maka abo balindira ddala njagala kubategeeza abo balindira ddala ate nja kutuula nammwe kompleeti nja kwogera nammwe nja kubategeeza ebintu byonna ebya politics mubigeeko.
Political party activities, elections, and a return to civilian rule were not among the military government's priorities. The return to parliamentary democracy had to await the forceful removal of Field Marshal Amin 8 years later in 1979.
Fellow countrymen, I am Lieutenant Colonel David Oyito Ojok. I bring you good news. On behalf of the Uganda National Liberation Front, we have today, Wednesday, 11th April 1979, captured the Ugandan capital of Kampala. From today, the racist, fascist, and illegal regime of dictator Idi Amin is no longer in power. We ask all the masses of Uganda to rise up and join hands in eliminating the few remaining murderers, looters, and rapists still at large. We appeal to all the peace-loving people of the world to support the People's Liberation Cause and condemn the former racist regime. We order all the soldiers who have not yet surrendered to do so immediately. Lastly, we ask all the residents in Kampala to remain calm and stay indoors. Please stay tuned for further announcements. I say this for God and my country.
Idi Amin's defeat in 1979 brought in the Uganda National Liberation Front government.
Ceremony of the President by the Chief Justice Wambusi.
Do solemnly swear that I will and truly exercise the functions of the high office of President.
While in Tanzania, the UNLF had created a pseudo-parliament which it called the National Consultative Council. And with UNLF in power, NCC became Uganda's third parliament. The NCC chairman was Edward Rugumayo, and he automatically became Speaker. Rugumayo was Speaker from 11th April 1979 until President Godfrey Binaisa was overthrown by UNLF's military commission in May 1980, where Rugumayo was outside Uganda. Speaker Rugumayo did not return and was succeeded by the Deputy Speaker Alex Blesio Nume Waibale, until he too resigned on 16 September 1980.
Alex Waibale was succeeded by Francis Butagira as National Consultative Council Speaker. The military commission dissolved
NRC became Uganda's fifth parliament. The speaker was none other than President Museveni himself, with NRM Vice Chairman Alhaji Moses Chigongo as Deputy Speaker. President Museveni deemed it fit to explain the peculiar circumstances.
687 budget that will be read today by the Minister of Finance, Professor Mama, and it follows through.
regarding our existing products and the movement and the state. In the past, people in Uganda here were listening to the parliamentary system, where there was the legislature, and then the executive arm, and then the political organs, the movements and the parties and so on. But as of now, ours are fused. When we in the bush, we didn't have time to sort out the roles of the legislature as opposed to the roles of political organs of the movement. So as of now, they are fused. That's why you see me here acting as a speaker. Because we are not in the city, so soon they go for speakers, so we need to provide for it. So we have to bear with us.
Haji Chigongo chaired most sessions over this 10-year period, making it necessary for him to have a vice chairman. First was Kaberamaido MP Joseph Ekemu in 1994. After him came Kwania County MP George Cosmas Adiebo from 1994 to 1996. And from 1996 to 1998, it was Lira woman MP Betty Okwir.
The first speaker for Uganda's 6th parliament was James Wambogo Wapakablo, the MP for Mbale municipality, after distinguishing himself when chairing Uganda's Constituent Assembly.
The chairman of the assembly, Honorable James Wapakaburo, then handed over 3 copies of the Constitution of Uganda to the president, the chief executive of the country.
On the 18th of May last year, the president gave us the report and the draft constitution of the text produced by the Odoki Commission. Now we have ceremonially returned to His Excellency the President a job completed and in accordance with the law under which we have operated. Thank you.
Then the president, in the exercise of his authority as the chief executive, handed over 1 ceremonial copy to the vice chairman of the National Resistance Movement, Alhaji Moses Chigongo, for the Speaker of Parliament, the legislative arm of government, and another copy to the Deputy Chief Justice, Justice Seth Manyindo, who represented the Chief Justice on behalf of the judicial arm of government. President Museveni then handed over other copies of the Constitution to the people of Uganda through their elected district chairmen.
Wapa, as he was fondly known, served 2 years and was succeeded by Koboko MP Francis Ayume, who steered the House from 1998 to 2001.
Whereas Clause 2 of Article 101 of the Constitution provides that the President may, in consultation with the Speaker, address Parliament from time to time on any matter of national importance, and whereas the President has deemed it necessary to address Parliament on the question of security in Uganda and in the Great Lakes region as a matter of national importance, and whereas the necessary consultation has been carried out, and it has been agreed that Parliament sits today to enable His Excellency the President to address Parliament, now therefore it is my honor to invite Your Excellency to address Parliament. Mr. President.
The Deputy Speaker during this period was Bukoto Central MP Edward Sekandi. Presiding over Uganda's 7th and 8th parliaments from 2001 to 2011 was Bukoto Central NRM MP Edward Chiwanuka Sekandi, with Kamuli NRM woman MP Rebecca Alitwala Kadaga as Deputy Speaker.
Now, therefore, I, Edward Chiwanuka Sekandi, Speaker of Parliament of Uganda, to welcome Your Excellency to the 7th Parliament for the first time and to invite you to deliver the State of the Nation Address to Parliament in accordance with Article 101(1) of the Constitution. Your Excellency.
Uganda's 9th and 10th parliaments from 2011 to 2021 had Kamuli NRM woman MP Rebecca Alitwala Kadaga as Speaker, the first woman in Uganda to get the legislature's top job.
I'm right to congratulate the Parliament of Uganda
on a significant milestone, we're celebrating 100 years of legislation on 23rd March 2021. We note that the precursor of the present-day Parliament of Uganda was the Legislative Council, LEGICO, and held its first meeting on Wednesday, 23rd March 1921 at Government House in Entebbe. That anniversary falls the same year that the CPA reaches its 110th anniversary, 1911-2021. The CPA Uganda branch was formed in 1962, and since then the Parliament of Uganda has played an active role in the association, including hosting the 13th Commonwealth Parliamentary Association in 1967 and the 64th Commonwealth Parliamentary Conference in 2019. Stephen Trigg, Secretary General, Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. Thank you very much, honourable members.
The Deputy Speaker was Omoro County NRM MP Jacob Olanya. Uganda's 11th Parliament elected Omoro County MP Honorable Jacob Olanya Nokori as Speaker, and Bukedea District Woman MP Anita Anet Among was elected Deputy Speaker.
I can only say that I feel greatly humbled to be called decisions we will have opportunity to make in the next 5 years will make us truly deserve the overwhelming confidence you showed in electing me as Speaker of this 11th Parliament. All views will be received with tolerance and given fair treatment based on known facts and reason. We must play to overrule intolerance. Thank you again, and may God bless all of you.
But on 20th March 2022, 3 days to his 57th birthday, Right Honorable Jacob Olanya died. On 25th March 2022, Honorable Anita Among was elected to take charge of the 11th Parliament.
It is the greatest honor of my life, Your Excellency, and members of Parliament, to accept the responsibility to serve the 11th Parliament, and indeed the Republic of Uganda. Let me take the opportunity to thank God for the life of our late Honorable Jacob Lokori Olanya. We talk about Jacob today because we would not be here undertaking this exercise had he been amidst us. As the Parliament of Uganda and as a country, we can only celebrate his life by taking forward the aspirations that he had promised the people of Uganda, and I can promise the country I will do that.
Her deputy was Ruhinda North NRM MP Thomas Tayebwa. On 25th May 2026, West Budama Central MP Honorable Jacob Maxon Zoboth was elected Speaker of the 12th Parliament.
Your Excellency and honorable colleagues, allow me to start by thanking God for this great day that the Lord has made. For a boy who grew up in a rural village called Muafu in Toro district, who hustled to attain better education, and today, right now, stands before you as the Speaker of the 12th Parliament, it could only be by divine grace. Honorable members, I thank you most sincerely for entrusting me today with the highest office of being your Speaker, which responsibility I receive with utmost humility and modesty. The Speaker's chair is not a throne. It is a servant's post. My role now is to come before you to ensure that working together, the voices of the over 48 million Ugandans who send us here are heard, protected, and respected. Under my leadership, we will cultivate a culture of absolute integrity and zero tolerance to corruption, anchored in President Museveni's clarion call for corruption-free parliament in the next 5 years. Let us all serve the Parliament of the Republic of Uganda with humility, modesty, and dignity. Let us serve all Ugandans with respect and honor. I thank you, God bless you all, and may God bless the Republic of Uganda.
Thomas Tayebwa was re-elected Deputy Speaker of the 12th Parliament.
So help me God.
Just like twins, or the two sides of a coin, Uganda's modern parliament has two main divisions: the government bench, and the opposition bench. It is a tradition inherited from the Legislative Council, which LegCo was also moulded along the lines of the British Parliament. After losing the 1961 election to Ben Kiwanuka and the Democratic Party, the Uganda People's Congress leader, Apollo Milton Obote, who was also MP for Lango North East, became leader of the opposition. In the 1962 election that preceded Uganda's full independence, the Democratic Party lost to the Uganda People's Congress. And because all of Buganda's 21 MPs indirectly elected by the Luchiko were members of Kabaka Yekka, DP leader Ben Kiwanuka never made it to Parliament. Consequently, DP Secretary General Basil Kiza Bataringaya, who was also MP for Ankole Northwest, became leader of the opposition. In 1964, leader of the opposition Basil Bataringaya crossed the floor and joined the ruling UPC. DP replaced him with Acholi Northwest DP MP Alex Alija Latim as Secretary General, and Latim also became leader of the opposition. He served until 1971, when General Idi Amin's military government shut down Parliament for the next 8 years. Uganda's third parliament, better known as the National Consultative Council, or NCC, did not have an opposition bench, owing to the peculiar circumstances in which it was constituted. The NCC Speaker was officially addressed as chairman and the clerk as secretary, among other peculiarities. The 1980 elections, which witnessed a return to multi-party democracy, also returned the UPC to power.
Hey, Mama, the Congress of the People, oh, Dr. Obote. Hey, Mama, the Congress of the People, oh, Paul Muwanga. Hey, Mama, the Congress of the People, oh, the Mani Madi. Hey, Mama, the Congress of the People.
The DP leader, Paul Kawanga Semogerere, who was the Impiji South East MP, became leader of the opposition. He kept the office until 27th July 1985, when General Tito Okello's military council captured power and suspended parliament indefinitely.
The Prime Minister and the Cabinet, members of the security forces, members of the diplomatic corps, our religious leaders, ladies and gentlemen, I am here in my capacity as Minister of Internal Affairs of a 2 weeks government to perform the pleasant duty to introduce the head of state and chairman of the Military Council, General Tito Okello Lutwa, released from prison over 1,000 political detainees left behind by the Obote regime.
The military council was overthrown by the National Resistance Movement, and on 29th January 1986, another peculiar organization called the National Resistance Council, or NRC, became Uganda's fifth parliament. Like the NCC of 1979, NRC had no opposition leader, a situation that prevailed until 2006, when multi-party democracy was restored.
I, Utakome Andrew Kaira, swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Republic of Uganda, and that I will preserve, protect and defend the Constitution, so help me God.
From 2006 to 2010, Agago North Forum for Democratic Change MP Maurice Ogenga Latigo was leader of the opposition, and for the next 12 years, all opposition leaders in parliament were FDC. From 2011 to 2013, it was Nathan Nandala Mafabi, FDC MP for Budadiri West. He was succeeded by Bukoli Central FDC MP Philip Wafula Ogutu from 2014 to 2016. From 2016 to 2018, it was FDC Kasese woman MP Winnie Kiza who also entered national records as Uganda's first female leader of the opposition.
First task will be to harmonize all those dissenting views, to ensure that we arrive at a consensus. We bring about the common interests that we have. We bring about common ground that we have so that we can work together to achieve a common purpose.
Then in came FDC Gulu woman MP Betty Awol Ochan, who ran opposition affairs in Uganda's 10th parliament from 2018 to 2021. Thereafter, the FDC's hold on this position was broken by a new entrant, the National Unity Platform, or NUP, led by former Chadondo East MP Robert Chagulanyi.
In 2021, National Unity Platform MP for Nyendo Mukungwe, Mathias Mpuga Nsamba, was named leader of the opposition until he was succeeded by Nakawa West NUP MP Joel Bisekezi Senyonyi in January 2024. In May 2026, Honorable Senyonyi retained his position as leader of opposition in the 12th Parliament. Ever since Legiko converged in 1921, there was always an officer who served in the capacity of clerk. But it is in 1958 that a native Ugandan appears in the clerk's office. This was Stanley Bemba, who was assistant clerk to Legiko during A.L. Pennington's tenure as clerk. Philip Pulisino, who was a Briton, was clerk from 1960 up to 1964, when the first native Ugandan clerk, Ignatius Barungi, took over until 1969. Barungi was followed by Edward Ochuo in the second parliament, serving until Marshal Idi Amin's military coup of 1971, which shut down parliament for 80 years. When parliament reopened after Idi Amin's defeat in 1979, John Munyonyo Jok was named clerk, but after the 1980 elections, Edward Ochuo of the second parliament made history by returning as clerk of 4th and 5th parliament until 1989.
This evening, we have 3 ministers, 2 taking the oath, and 1 giving affirmation of office. So with your permission, Your Excellency, I'd like to call upon the ministers one by one to come up here and take their oaths. Thank you, sir.
Then in came Enias Tandekwire, who was clerk until 2011. And in 2012, Parliament got its first female clerk in Jane Chibirige. She was succeeded by Adolf Mwesige in 2021. As part of the mission to bring Parliament of Uganda closer to the people, the Commission operates a parliamentary museum under the Department of Library Services. This great idea was first mooted by President Apollo Milton Obote when His Holiness Pope Paul VI visited Uganda in 1969. History was made when, after a grand service at Kololo Independence Grounds, the Pope arrived at Parliament.
Uganda must have a permanent place where the people of Uganda and the people of Africa can easily come to and appreciate the great work that was done to organize the visit of Pope Paul VI. We may have this place in the Uganda Museum, in Parliament Building, or at Namugongo. But the important thing is that we must have a place where all the souvenirs, the flags, the bantings, and anything that will keep the memory of the visit of the first pontiff on the continent of Africa alive somewhere at a special place, accessible to the people of Uganda and the people of the world.
However, Pope Paul's historic visit to Uganda will only be part of what the Museum of the Parliament of Uganda has.
In the heart of Uganda's capital city, Kampala, is this imposing edifice of parliamentary democracy, the Parliament of the Republic, would however manifest itself decades later when our first native members to the Legislative Council emerged from these units. They simply can't be ignored.
By an order in council dated 29th June 1920, the Uganda Protectorate got its first executive and legislative councils. However, the order said nothing about representation for any entity or even elections to those bodies. The first legislative council, or Legico, which sat on 23rd March 1921, was presided over by the governor of the Uganda Protectorate in the role of Speaker. It had 6 other members, 4 of who were government officials, while 2 were private individuals.
These were the Honorable Edward Blackwell Jarvis, Chief Secretary, the Honorable A.B. Hose, Attorney General, the Honorable A.E. Bori, Treasurer, the Honorable C.A. Wiggins, Chief Medical Officer, the Honorable Henry Hamilton Hunter, unofficial member, the Honorable Harry Edward Levis, unofficial member.
Honorable members, for those of you who are enjoying that documentary, please ensure that you follow it up on the Parliament website and also on YouTube. It's really quite informative, and there's lots of history about Parliament and also aspects of Uganda's history. In the meantime, members of Parliament, those who are still at the doors, we invite you to come in. Please come in and take your seats so that we can proceed with the afternoon session. We are really hard pressed by time and would like to start as soon as possible and have an early finish for the day. So if you have any contact for your colleagues outside, please also ask them to come in so that we can continue with our session. IT team, if you can put the code for evaluation on the screens, please do. Honorable members, before we start our session, I would like to give you a very simple brief about how we shall do the appraisal for the day later this afternoon, not now. If you can turn to the screens, you can see two barcodes there. One of those is a monitoring and evaluation form, and we shall encourage you to scan it using your phones and fill out an evaluation for the day. You can also scan the other code that will give you the different presentations and the training materials. We're trying to ensure that we are as paperless as possible. So we shall continue to flash these codes for you, but if you'd like to take it now, you're welcome to take a picture of either the monitoring and evaluation form or the training materials and presentation forms. For those who are unable to do it, if your phones cannot scan those, we shall provide hard copies. But for now, we're trying to keep this as paperless as possible. And we shall scan these, we shall put them up on the screens again during the course of the afternoon. Otherwise, we invite members of parliament to please come in and take your seats so that our afternoon sessions can begin. Allow me also to remind you once again that for members of parliament who did not pick their iPads, there is a room in the basement, just at an underground level, called Kabalega. And our IT teams are based there and they have carried their iPads. We also encourage you to pick your identity cards at the desks at the exit or at the entrance to this hall. Your ID cards as members of parliament are ready. So continue to encourage members to please come in and take your seats so that we can start. Our presenters are already in the room, and all we're waiting for is for members of parliament to take their seats, and then we can resume the afternoon session. Thank you. Session to begin. If you have got contacts for other members outside, please ask them to come in. Protocol teams, please usher our members of parliament in so that we can start our afternoon session. We have got two very interesting discussions this afternoon, and we wouldn't want any of the members of parliament to miss them. For that instance, please advise everybody to come in and settle down so that we can start our session. Thank you. You could do the documentary. Honourable members, once again, good afternoon. We are ready to start. We are still waiting for the members of parliament to please come in and take your seats. So for the members who are in the hall, could you please take your seats? I'm sure you've noticed that our panel is fully constituted and we are ready to start the afternoon session. To the teams, the staff, support staff, please help to whip members to come back into the hall so that we can start our afternoon session.
Honorable members, please take your seats. We are now opening our afternoon session, and I would like to, without wasting time, to hand over the chair to Honorable Kajwenje to moderate the afternoon session. Honorable Chair, you are welcome.
Very good afternoon to you, honorable colleagues, the government chief whip, and the cabinet ministers, honorable colleagues, our visitors, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you from a very sumptuous lunch that we had. My name is Wilson Kajwenje. I represent Nyabushozi constituency in Chirhura district. It's my honor and privilege to chair this afternoon session. I certainly did not participate in selecting who chairs what committee and at what time. I don't know why they chose this immediately after lunch. But the afternoon session has two major presentations, both of them extremely relevant to our work, and in as far as legislation which we need now in this induction. The first presentation will be by the Achove. She served formerly as State House Controller for 11 good years. Procedure for what? The Honorable Shabe. You can switch on.
Is it on now? Thank you, Chair. requesting, there was a previous presenter. You've not updated us. From 2 to 3, we're supposed to have Mr. Paul Wawire.
Yes.
On parliamentary powers, privileges, and immunities. And I don't know, you've not updated us why we're skipping to the next before.
And that topic is coming later. Thank you for being an active observant, Honorable Shabe.
Thank you.
Okay, so I was introducing our presenter, the first presenter this afternoon. I said, Madame Luce Nacho Bembonye is the head of public service and secretary to cabinet since July 2021. She formerly served as State House comptroller for a good 11 years. She rose through the ranks from administration to reach this level. She has served government for 36 years. She has a degree of Bachelor of Social Sciences from Makerere University. She has several certificates, including administrative law. She has got many postgraduate qualifications, including Master of Management in Public Administration and MBA from ESAMI and other very short courses, including postgraduate diploma in Public Administration and Administrative Law. Our topic today is exactly what she is primed to do. We probably could never have got a better presenter on this topic, from policy to impact. The members of parliament outside there are known, and I quote, to be making policy, but actually they shape and legalize policy. We have one of the best policy regimes in probably this part of the continent. The issue is policy to impact. I take the pleasure, without wasting time, to invite Madame Luce Nachobe Mbonye. Please give him a round of applause and welcome her to make this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kajwenje, Honorable Ministers present, all members of Parliament, and all leaders present, including my own, the Clerk to Parliament. Good afternoon to you all. My presentation, I hope, will be flashed. You have it. The content, I'll have an introduction on national transformation, role of Parliament in transforming Uganda, role of Parliament of public service in transforming Uganda, why this discussion matters, then the discussion of the vital concepts, understanding the policy to impact chain, and where Parliament fits in, and the public service. So I am starting by saying I'm honored to give this lecture to you, the newly elected Parliament, on this subject, a subject that lies at the heart of our national transformation. And this subject is from policy to impact, the role of Parliament and the public service in transforming Uganda. The introduction, I'll speak about the national transformation. Throughout history, countries have transformed from poverty to prosperity within one generation, while others remain trapped in underdevelopment despite possessing abundant natural resources, educated populations, and decades of independence. The difference is rarely explained by geography or natural resources, but rather successful national transformation is largely the result of leadership institutions, governance, discipline, and implementation. Countries like Singapore, South Korea, Rwanda, Botswana, and Vietnam demonstrate that transformation is possible regardless of starting conditions. Uganda's aspiration to become an upper middle income country depends on understanding the following lessons. What is national transformation? National transformation is the deliberate process through which a country fundamentally improves the following: the quality of life of its people, the productivity, the governance, the institutions, the infrastructure, the education, the healthcare, the industrial capacity, and the public confidence in government. Transformation, therefore, means that citizens experience measurable improvement in their daily lives. So, why do some nations transform? They do so because they have clear national vision, They have clear national vision. Successful countries know exactly where they want to go. Their governments do not change direction every few years. Every ministry works towards the same national objective. For example, in Singapore's vision of becoming a global trading hub, and the South Korean vision of export-led industrialization, and the Rwanda vision of 2040. In Uganda, we have the vision of 2040. Rwanda, they have 2050. So leadership drives transformation. Transformation begins with leadership. Effective leaders inspire confidence. They make difficult decisions. They fight corruption. They enforce discipline. They demand results. They place national interest above personal interest. Therefore, political commitment is the single biggest determinant of successful reforms. Strong institutions matter more than strong individuals for those nations that grow. Successful nations build institutions that outlive political leaders. For example, they have to have an independent public service, a professional civil service, an effective cabinet system, strong planning institutions, capable revenue authorities, accountable procurement systems, name it. And this is because the institutions create continuity. Successful nations ought to have governments that work as one. Transformation requires a whole-of-government approach. Ministries cannot operate in silos. Economic transformation depends on coordinated action amongst ministries, while cabinet provides the collective leadership of government. So, successful nations must have meritocracy. Transforming countries appoint competent people, and their appointments are based on competence, integrity, experience, performance. And when merit is ignored, it means the institutions weaken. Successful nations ought to have discipline. Every successful nation demonstrates discipline, and this discipline includes punctuality, implementation, fiscal responsibility, respect of law, accountability, and the example of Singapore, their development often is attributed to their discipline. Those of you who have been to Singapore, you know what I'm talking about. In Singapore, you cannot drop any paper. Who has ever been to Singapore? You have been there. You can't drop a paper. You can't pick a mango. You can't pick a fruit. Even if it is in your compound, it belongs to the wild animals, even if you have planted it in your compound. You can't cut a tree. So they are so disciplined. So developed nations must have also zero tolerance to corruption. Corruption destroys transformation because it wastes scarce resources, discourages investors, delays projects, weakens public trust, and rewards mediocrity. Countries that have transformed aggressively have reduced their corruption, and Singapore is one of those. They used to have corruption, they fought it, and that's how they managed to get where they are. And they focus on implementation. Many developing countries have excellent plans, but few of them implement these plans. Successful governments must constantly ask the following questions. Are projects on schedule? Are citizens receiving services? Are ministers delivering on commitments? This implementation distinguishes successful governments. Successful nations also invest in human capital. Transformation depends on people. Countries must invest heavily in education, healthcare, skills, science, technology, innovation, because human capital creates productivity. They must have a private sector that is developed. Government must create conditions, and then the business creates wealth. Transforming nations, they encourage entrepreneurship, investment, exports, manufacturing, innovation. Government should be seen as an enabler rather than a competitor with a business. So why do some nations fail to transform? One of the reasons is weak leadership. Leaders who focus on politics instead of development. The other reason is corruption. Resources are diverted from public services. The other one is policy inconsistency. Governments frequently change priorities and projects begin and never get finished. And they have weak institutions. Institutions become personalized. Rules depend on individuals instead of systems. They have poor coordination. Ministries duplicate work. Projects overlap, and there is resource wastage. They also have lack of accountability. There are no consequences for poor performance, and the poor performers remain in office. They are short-term thinkers. Government prioritizes immediate political gains over long development, and transformation requires patience, which they don't have. And there is failure to implement. Plans remain on paper, and yet citizens judge government by delivery and not by strategic documents. So what are the lessons for Uganda? In Uganda, we possess many advantages. We have political instability. We have a young population. We have fertile land. We are strategically located. We have oil and gas resources. We have various minerals. Our infrastructure is improving. We have regional markets, and we have a committed leadership. Therefore, the challenge is in implementation. So, Uganda already has a national vision. We know that 2040 vision. We have the development plans. We have the capable professionals. We have the constitutional institutions. Now, the task with us is ensuring that every public institution delivers measurable results. Therefore, transformation of Uganda into an upper middle income country cannot be achieved by the executive alone. It requires a strong partnership between the executive, parliament, and the public service, each fulfilling its constitutional mandate while working toward a shared national vision. Parliament provides the democratic legitimacy, oversight, and legal framework for development, while the public service converts the policy into tangible results for the citizens. What is the role of Parliament in transforming Uganda? The Parliament of Uganda is not merely a lawmaking institution. It is a strategic partner in national transformation. And number one role is making laws that promote development. That is the role of Parliament in transforming Uganda. Make laws that promote development. As Parliament, you should enact laws that improve the investment climate, that protect the property rights, that promote industrialization and value addition, that encourage innovation and technology, that strengthen governance and accountability, and that protect vulnerable groups, because a modern economy requires modern laws. The second role is approving resources for national priorities. For transformation to occur, we need investment. Therefore, Parliament approves the national budget, approves government borrowing, approves tax policies, and supplementary expenditure. And it is the responsibility of Parliament to ensure that these resources are allocated to the sectors that generate growth. And these include agriculture, infrastructure, education, health, energy, science, and technology. And every budget should answer one question, and that is, will this expenditure improve the lives of Ugandans? That is the question you should ask yourself before you allocate. The third role is holding government accountable. As Parliament, you ensure that public funds are properly used, government programs achieve results, corruption is exposed and addressed, ministries deliver on their commitments, because good oversight improves performance rather than simply assigning blames. The fourth role is the representation of citizens. As members of Parliament, you connect government to the people by communicating the citizens' priorities, monitoring service delivery, explaining government programs, building public confidence. Because development succeeds only when citizens feel represented. The fifth role is supporting national unity. Parliament brings together representatives from every part of Uganda. Through constructive debate and consensus building, it therefore strengthens national cohesion, inclusive development, peace and stability, and we all know that political stability is essential for economic transformation. And what is the role of public service in transforming Uganda? The public service is the machinery that turns government decisions into results. Policies do not implement themselves. Budgets do not spend themselves. Laws do not enforce themselves. But civil servants make the government work through doing that. So the first role of the public service is implementing government policy. The public service converts cabinet decisions into action, implements legislation, delivers public programs, coordinates ministries, departments, and agencies, and the implementation determines whether citizens experience the benefits of government. The second role of the public services is to provide services like education, healthcare, agriculture, security, roads, water, name it. Citizens judge government by the quality of services they receive. Efficient service delivery continues to build the public trust. The third role of the public service is advising political leaders. Permanent secretaries and technical officers provide evidence-based advice, policy analysis, financial guidance, risk assessment, long-term institutional memory, because the professional advice helps the ministers to make sound decisions. The fourth role is managing public resources. The public service safeguards public money, government assets, the human resources, the procurement, the records, name it, because integrity in public administration protects the national resources. The other role is driving performance. Modern public servants should focus on results, on innovation, on digital government, continuous improvement, measuring outcomes, because transformation requires a performance-oriented culture. The public service ought to fight corruption, because corruption diverts resources away from the schools, the hospitals, and the roads, and communities. Therefore, public servants must uphold integrity, enforce financial discipline, strengthen internal controls, protect whistleblowers, reject conflict of interest, and every public servant is a guardian of public trust. So the Parliament and public service are a partnership for transformation, and that is what that table shows. Parliament makes laws on the one side, and the public service implements it on the other side. They approve the budgets, and the public service uses the resources efficiently. They provide oversight, while the other side, the public service, delivers the results. They represent citizens, while the other side, the public servants, serve the citizens. So transformation depends on a mutual respect between the political leadership and the professional administration. The two of them have a shared responsibility, that is Parliament and public service. And for Uganda to achieve a sustainable transformation, Parliament must legislate wisely, allocate resources strategically, and exercise constructive oversight. While the public service must implement efficiently, manage resources with integrity, and deliver measurable results. When these two institutions work in harmony with the executive, government becomes more coherent, accountable, and effective. The citizens of Uganda do not experience government through policies, nor acts of parliament, nor cabinet papers or budget speeches. They experience government through the quality of roads they drive on, the medicines available in the health facilities, the quality of education their children are receiving, the access of clean water, electricity, jobs, and the like. So for the ordinary citizen, the ultimate test of government is not what we promise, but what we deliver. So that's why we are saying, why is it that governments sometimes have excellent policies, sound legislation, adequate budgets, and competent leaders, yet citizens continue to complain about poor service delivery? And I'm saying this answer is simple. Development does not occur when policies are formulated. Development occurs when policies are successfully implemented. The trust test of government is not the quality of its intentions, but the quality of its outcomes. Citizens do not eat policies. They don't drink legislation. They experience government through services. For example, a mother experiences government through the availability of medicines in the health center. A farmer experiences government through access to markets and agricultural support. A student experiences government through the quality of education. This is why the journey from policy to impact is perhaps the most important responsibility entrusted to both Parliament and the public service. So why does this discussion matter? This discussion matters for the following. Uganda has no shortage of good policies. In Uganda, we have the Vision 2040, we have the National Development Plans. I think now we are on NDP4. We have the Parish Development Models, the MIOGAs, the UPEs, the USEs, the Wealth Creation, name it. Yet the recurring question remains, why do some programs achieve their objectives while others fall short of expectations? So the answer often lies not in policy formulation, but in implementation. Across the world, governments succeed or fail not because of lack of ideas, but because of their ability to translate ideas into tangible results. The challenge before us, therefore, is not merely policy design. The challenge is implementation. So we therefore need to understand some of the concepts first before we delve further. What is the purpose of government? Government exists to create public value. Public value means improving the well-being of citizens. Citizens surrender part of their freedom by paying taxes, and they confer authority on leaders in exchange for one expectation. And that expectation is that their lives will become better. Therefore, everything government does should ultimately answer one question: how does this improve the life of a Ugandan? So, what is the difference between government activity and government impact? This is one of the most important concepts in public administrations. Governments are naturally busy. We are naturally very busy in government because we are in meetings, we are in cabinet papers, bills, policies, budgets, workshops, reports, vehicle committees, and whatever, name it. But the activity is not impact. You are very busy, thank you, but me, the citizen, I'm not feeling that business of yours. Government can become extremely busy while citizens experience very little improvement. For example, a ministry conducts 50 workshops. Say this is the Ministry of Agriculture. Then we ask the question, has the agricultural productivity increased despite those many workshops? Parliament passes 10 new acts, and we ask ourselves, has unemployment reduced? A district receives additional funding. We ask ourselves, has maternal mortality declined? So what is the lesson? Government should measure outcomes, not effort. This is where result-based management comes in. So we therefore need to understand the difference between inputs, outputs, outcomes, and impact. For example, government wants to improve maternal health. What are the inputs it will put in? It requires money, doctors, medicines, buildings, equipment. What are the outputs he's expecting? Health centers constructed, midwives recruited, ambulances purchased. What are the outcomes? More mothers attend antenatal care, more deliveries occur at the health facilities. But what is the impact? Maternal mortality reduces. Children survive. Life expectancy improves. So the mistake government makes is celebrating outputs. Yet citizens celebrate the impact. So, however many outputs you have, if there is no impact, the citizens will continue to complain. This should help you, the MPs, to change how you think about the oversight. So understanding the policy to impact chain. Stage 1, we look at the citizens' needs. This is where the story begins. Government should never begin with a policy. Government should begin with the problems. For example, farmers cannot access markets, that's a problem. Young people lack employment, that's a problem. Health centers have medicine shortages, that's a problem. Roads are impassable, name it, those are problems. Without understanding problems properly, the policies will not solve the problem. This is why Parliament's representation role becomes indispensable here. You, the MPs, you are the government's eye and ears. You are the one who sees those problems and bring them to government. The political vision. Once the problems are understood, the political leadership determines the national priorities. And these are found in the manifestos. You have manifestos, in the cabinet priorities, in the national vision, in the presidential directives, name it. And some of these include like poverty eradication, industrialization, value addition, the PDMs, name it. So the political leaders are trying to answer the question, where do we want Uganda to go? That is the question you are trying to answer at that level. So stage 3 is the public policy stage. This is where the technical officers now enter in. They answer the policy questions. What is government's response? Policy is essentially government's chosen solution. Good policy requires research, requires evidence, economic analysis, stakeholder consultation, risk analysis, cost-benefit analysis, and a policy design. Most people think policy is simply writing documents, but that is not. It is designing solutions to complex national problems, and this is largely driven by the public service. So stage 4 is the legislation stage. Many policies require legal authority. The questions you should ask yourselves as MPs at this stage include, but not limited to, should this become law? Does it protect the rights of the people? Is it constitutional? Is it affordable? Does it overlap with existing laws? And here Parliament refines policy into enforceable laws. And without legislation, many policies will just remain mere aspirations. The stage 5 is the resource allocation. This is where priorities become visible. Budgets reveal what government truly values. If government does not budget for something, you know that government doesn't value that thing. No implementation occurs without money. So, Parliament decides what gets funded, what receives priority, how much should each program receive. The budget is therefore not merely a financial document, but rather it is a policy implementation instrument. Stage 6 is the implementation stage. This is where the public service becomes the central actor. Implementation includes planning, procurement, recruitment, construction, coordination, contract management, training, supervision, service delivery, name it. Everything now moves from paper to practice. And this is the longest and the most difficult phase. And many policies fail at this stage. Stage 7 is monitoring. Monitoring, you ask yourself, are we doing what we planned? Are projects progressing? Are funds reaching beneficiaries? Monitoring provides continuous feedback, and without monitoring, failure remains invisible until it is too late. Stage 8 is the evaluation stage. At evaluation, we ask different questions. Evaluation asks different questions. Did we build the schools? Why did we build the schools? Rather, don't ask why did we build the schools. Rather ask, did the literacy improve? Evaluation measures effectiveness. It asks whether policy actually solved the original problem. And the last stage, stage 9, is the impact. It is at this stage that the citizen now judge government. And this impact includes higher incomes, examples, reduced poverty, better health, improved education. This is where the citizen is concerned. And this is where we should all focus if we are here to serve the citizens. Every stage of this chain matters. Failure at any point weakens the final outcome. Parliament and public service occupy a critical position throughout this chain. So where does Parliament fit in this policy to impact chain? Parliament performs 4 key functions in this chain. The first one is representation. Through representation in your and constituency engagements, petitions, and committee work, as MPs, you bring citizens' concerns into national decision-making. That is the point at where the needs are identified. Then there is legislation. As Parliament, you create the legal framework through which government operates, and this enables policy implementation while safeguarding constitutional rights and ensuring coherency across decisions. At the same time, you shape policy through the debates, committee scrutiny, consultations, and engagement with ministers. And this helps Parliament to influence policy direction before and after cabinet decisions. And the third one is appropriation. Parliament, you authorize the expenditure of public resources, and by approving resources, you scrutinize budgets, and you align Parliament aligns funding with national priorities, and a well-designed policy without adequate resources cannot succeed. And the last one is the oversight. As Parliament, you ensure that public resources produce intended results. Oversight during implementation, this is crucial. Oversight should not only detect misuse of funds, which you normally concentrate on, but should also identify implementation bottlenecks, recommend improvements, and strengthen institutions. At the same time, during oversight, we have evaluation of the impact. As Parliament, you should increasingly ask whether government intentions were improved, whether they improved citizens' lives, not simply whether allocated funds were spent. That's what we call accountability. These functions make Parliament a central actor in the policy to impact process. And now, where does the public service fit in the policy to impact chain? The public service is not merely an administrative apparatus. It is the institutional engine that transforms political intent into practical reality. The public service serves as the implementation machinery of government, and its responsibilities span the entire implementation continuum. They conduct policy research and analysis, advise cabinet and ministers, they translate policy into implementable programs, they prepare implementation plans, budgets, and performance frameworks, they manage public finances, human resources, procurement, and the rest. They coordinate ministries, departments, agencies, and local government. They deliver services consistently, professionally, and equitably. They monitor progress. They evaluate programs. So the public service must balance the 3 responsibilities simultaneously. And these are loyalty to the elected government's lawful priorities, professional neutrality and evidence-based advice, and accountability for results and stewardship of the public resources. So why does this journey of policy to impact break down at times? This journey breaks down because problems are poorly diagnosed, So policies address symptoms rather than root causes. When policies are ambitious but insufficiently evidence-based, when legislation may contain implementation gaps or conflicting mandates, when budgets do not match priorities or funds are released late, when we have weak institution coordination, which cause duplication or fragmentation, when there are procurement delays, when we have corruption, which diverts the resources, when monitoring focuses on compliance rather than learning, when evaluation is neglected. So how do we build an effective partnership between Parliament and public service? So the two are not opponents. And one of the greatest misconceptions in governance is the belief that Parliament and public service occupy opposing sides. But in reality, they are partners pursuing a common national objective. Parliament determines what should be done. The public service determines how it can be done effectively. Parliament provides the oversight. The public service provides the accountability, and neither can succeed without the other. So understanding the distinct roles for collaboration to succeed, institutional boundaries must be respected. Parliament should make the laws, should approve the budgets, should exercise the oversight, should represent the citizens, while the public service must implement the laws, execute the programs, manage the resources, provide the technical advice, and when these roles are respected, government functions effectively, and when they become blurred, inefficiencies arise. The implementation challenge. We have said implementation is crucial, but implementation has the following challenges. Why good policies sometimes fail? The experience shows that policies often fail because of weak supervision. Programs are launched but not adequately monitored. Poor coordination, institutions work in silo. Corruption, resources intended for citizens are diverted. Capacity gaps, implementations may lack skills or resources. Weak accountability, poor performance goes unaddressed. Political interference, technical processes become compromised. What is the cost of this poor implementation? We have delayed projects, we have incomplete infrastructure, we have poor quality services, we have wastage of public funds, and we have reduced public trust as a consequence. Ultimately, citizens lose confidence in government and in the institutions. So what is the President's emphasis on the results? His Excellency the President has consistently emphasized fighting corruption, poverty eradication, wealth creation, service delivery, and accountability. For programs such as the PDM, the Myoga, the agricultural value chain, the industrialization. And this will only succeed when implementation is actively supervised and monitored by both of us, the Parliament and the public service. So what is the role of Parliament in driving impact? Moving beyond inputs to outcomes, Parliament should increasingly ask not how much money was spent, but what results were achieved. Not how many activities were conducted, but what changed in people's lives. Government must move from measuring activity to measuring impact. Oversight that creates improvement. Effective oversight should identify challenges, recommend solutions, strengthen institutions, promote accountability, and this oversight should improve service delivery rather than merely assign blame. And you have the constituency monitoring. As MPs, you are uniquely positioned to observe implementation on the ground. You can monitor the schools, the health facilities, the roads, name it, which provides a valuable feedback for national decision making. The future of public service delivery. The future lies in building a high-performing public service, and this requires professionalism, requires public officers guided by merit and competence, integrity, zero tolerance to corruption, digital transformation, automation of government services, innovation, research-oriented. And of course, we can't escape the role of technology in quickening the services, but also in removing corruption. And of course, we have the whole of government approach, which is necessary if we are to coordinate government activities and improve. Building a result-oriented state, we need to strengthen evidence-informed policy making, align legislation, budgets and implementation plans, invest in capable institutions, embrace digital systems, shift oversight from expenditure tracking to outcome measurement, foster collaboration between Parliament, the executive and the public service while respecting constitutional laws, institutionalize monitoring, evaluation and learning as continuous processes, promote ethical leadership. The call to action, what Uganda needs from this Parliament? From this Parliament, Uganda needs you to legislate wisely, to oversee diligently, to protect public resources, to support national transformation, to hold institutions accountable. And most importantly, Uganda needs you, leaders, who place national interest above personal interest. And what does Uganda need from the public servants? Uganda wants them to be professional, to be ethical, to be responsive, to be innovative, and to be accountable, because the public service is capable of translating policy into meaningful impact. So as I conclude, honorable members, history will not judge us by the number of laws enacted, the reports produced, the meetings held, or budgets approved. Rather, it will judge us whether the lives of Ugandans improved, because we were entrusted with the leadership. The true measure of government is not by activity, but rather by impact. And as Parliament, we expect you to provide leadership through legislation, representation, and oversight, while the public service provides leadership through implementation and service delivery. Let us forge a partnership that transforms policies into results and aspirations into achievements. Together, let us ensure that every law passed, every shilling appropriated, and every program implemented contributes meaningfully to Uganda's journey towards prosperity and upper middle income status. The future of Uganda not only relies on the quality of our policies, but on our collective ability to turn those policies into impact. I thank you for listening to me.
She really deserves a standing ovation. A round of applause. Wow. You know, honorable colleagues, if this paper was presented by an academician, we would think it's academics. This instructional presentation presented by Head of Public Service and Secretary of Cabinet. And if I may refer you to your constitution, the two books you are given, read Article 173A and look at the constitutional mandate of the Head of Public Service. And the dual mandates of being Head of Public Service and Secretary to Cabinet places her at a critical juncture, not only supervision, but also implementation of whatever she's saying. She has, you know, if she were a doctor, like the Honorable John Rusa Cheng, you would say she has done an excellent diagnosis of why nations fail, she has not stopped there. She has also made an excellent attempt at prescription of solutions. I have shared with the clerk, I think these presentations should be bound together for posterity's sake, especially, so you can refer to them in the cabinet, in the Parliament Library and the other areas. This was good. She has also touched on the policy to impact chain. Policy to impact chain. Defined the roles, responsibilities, and mandates of both public service and Parliament. Amazingly. And she has reminded me of a book that I read and I continue to read, which I give to you, honorable colleagues, written by the two scholars, Danne Achemoglu and James Robinson, of Why Nations Fail. I recommend it to you. Daron Achemoglu and James Robinson wrote a book that they produced after 15 years of research, and the title is Why Nations Fail. The Origins of Power, Prosperity, and Poverty. I thank you, Honorable Lucy Nachobe Mbonye, for having done justice, real, to the presentation that you are given. Before I invite our second presenter, may I call Coach Bob to come and, in 3 minutes, only 3 minutes, awaken our spirits, physical, because our mental and intellectual spirits are all wide awake, but now physical spirits, so we can receive the second presentation. Bob, over to you. 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. May we stand up, please, in the spirit of health. We keep the happiness. Hands up, all of us. All of us, hands up. And we are going to count together as a team. Health is wealth. Health is wealth. Health is wealth. Exercise is medicine. Exercise is medicine. Exercise is medicine. Exercise is medicine. Health is wealth. Health is wealth. Okay, on our feet, we count together. 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 8, 8, 8, 8, 9, 9, 9, 10.
You may now sit. Thank you. Thank you very much. You see, the beauty of being a chairperson of a session is that you can invite anyone to, but this, I thought this was necessary after the afternoon lunch break. I kept my eyes on the Minister of Health. I don't know whether you were also watching. I kept my eyes on him, the Honorable Charles Ayume. The gentleman is very healthy. We are now going to have a second presentation, and then we shall have interaction thereafter. Second presentation is Leadership Code and Ethical Requirements. Leadership Code and Ethical Requirements. Responsibilities of a legislator. And it's going to be presented by Dr. Patricia Okiria, Deputy Inspector General of Government. as she comes in, very interestingly, members of parliament are the ones that make laws. And along the way, the laws catch up with them. This is one of the laws that you can hardly escape. The leadership code and ethical requirements. Dr. Patricia Okiria is a graduate of law from Makerere University. I had the honor and privilege to have studied with her for all her time at Makerere University in the law school, same class. She was one of those very few who defeated me, but not always, but she did. That explains why she went on to have, she's a graduate, she has a PhD in law. She's an author, she's a mother, she's a parent, she's very married, she's ethically upright and morally resplendent. I welcome you to make your presentation, Dr. Patricia. A round of applause as she comes.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremony, who also doubles up as my OB. The Honorable Speaker of Parliament, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Honorable Ministers here present, Honorable Members of Parliament, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Good afternoon again. Okay, that is better. Usually when you're greeted as a Member of Parliament, it is very good to respond with vigor and energy like a new Member of Parliament. So I will be sharing about the leadership code and ethical requirements and responsibilities of a legislator. And I would like to begin by congratulating you upon your successful elections. I know that your families and friends probably invested greatly to support you up to this point in your leadership journey. And this milestone is not merely a personal achievement, but it's a reflection of the confidence and trust the people of Uganda have placed on you as a leader. And they are now looking up to you with expectations and depending on you for the leadership that you will develop in this new parliament. I also extend my appreciation to the organizers for convening this important retreat, to the clerk to Parliament and your entire team. I am confident that the reflections and lessons we draw from this seminar will not only shape the individual leadership path, but it will also contribute to the collective direction of our country. Your actions will build and shape the public confidence, especially in governance. And I would like to thank my senior, the head service, for the comprehensive presentation she made a short while ago. There are so many lessons we can learn and draw from the highlights and the simplistic approach she brought in helping us understand our responsibilities and the relationship between the Parliament and executive arm of government. So my presentation basically will look at the issues to do with holding public office in public trust, and then we're going to look at our constitutional responsibilities before we delve into the responsibility, especially when it comes to issues to do with declaration of incomes, assets, and liabilities as members of Parliament. From the directive objectives and national objectives and directive principles of state policy under objective number 26, you realize that public office is held in trust of the people, and leaders are therefore answerable to the people. As members of parliament, it's your key responsibility to be answerable to the people, and all lawful measures must be taken to expose, combat, and eradicate corruption and abuse of office. When we talk about accountability, it's therefore not optional, but it's mandatory. It is a foundation upon which public trust and confidence in government institutions are built. So when we talk about building trust, the requirements to declare your incomes and assets and liabilities in a bid to build that trust with the people we are representing, it's very, very important, and we need to take it quite seriously. And when you're holding public positions in trust of the people, I have seen members of parliament, after succeeding, when you go to your villages or your constituencies, some people now leave their cars at the trading center, and then they take a border so that the villagers don't get to detect that they have come. So we will be talking about integrity, truthfulness, and honesty, even in our relationship with the people in our constituencies. We have a mandate as the Inspectorate of Government, and our mandate originates from the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. We're established under Chapter 13 of the Constitution. There we have our functions quite outlined within Article 2 to 5 of the Constitution and Section 8 of the Leadership Code Act, and of the Inspectorate of Government Act. And our functions are basically to promote adherence to the rule of law, principles of natural justice in administration, and to eliminate corruption, abuse of authority, and misuse of public office. We also promote fair and efficient good governance, and then we supervise the enforcement of the Leadership Code of Conduct, which we are going to be talking about a little later. Our mandate in the Constitution provides for the jurisdiction of the Inspectorate of Government. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a line ministry, and our line minister is here in present. Our ministry is the Directorate for Ethics and Integrity. The Directorate for Ethics and Integrity does the coordination of all the anti-corruption efforts with the interagency forum. Perhaps our minister, you stand up for recognition. My minister, Honorable Rose Lily Akelo. Ladies and gentlemen, she is our line minister. The Constitution provides for the jurisdiction of the Inspectorate of Government, but it's also important for us to note that the Inspectorate of Government is the lead anti-corruption agency in the country. The jurisdiction covers officers or leaders, whether employed in public service or not, and also such institutions, organizations, enterprises as parliaments may prescribe by law. And our vision is a just and corrupt-free Uganda, and our mission is to promote good governance through the prevention of corruption, enforcement of law, and citizen engagement. That is our mandate as the Inspectorate of Government. Now, we will talk about the corruption problem. Like the head service clearly indicated, our country is well endowed with fertile land, with favorable climate, with natural resources, and more importantly, with resilient and hardworking people as well. Now, each year, substantial amounts of resources are allocated towards key sectors like health, education, infrastructure, agriculture, and so on. You will be appropriating to those different sectors. But yet, despite of these investments, we still have service delivery gaps existing or persisting in our country. And the central question we ask ourselves, therefore, is not whether we have the resources or policies, but whether we have the leadership, the critical leadership that is required to translate these resources into meaningful outcomes. Now, when we talk about corruption, corruption is not simply a crime. like we are scoping it here as a problem. But corruption is actually a betrayal of trust. It robs our children of classrooms. It robs patients of medicines. In your constituencies, you're going to experience our own citizens lamenting that in the health center there are no drugs. Drugs were brought the other day and they have disappeared. They had stocked, but in the twinkling of an eye, they have gone missing. And that calls for our responsibility, our key responsibility as leaders. Our farmers are denied of fair markets. Our citizens are denied of dignity just because of the problem of corruption, which I have said is basically a betrayal of trust. It is a silent war that undermines every achievement of government. And that is why it is key, especially on the government agenda, zero tolerance to corruption. To fight corruption is therefore not optional, but it's a moral imperative for all of us leaders in this country. It's a patriotic duty and a sacred responsibility entrusted to us as leaders in this country. So the central question we keep asking ourselves is not whether we have resources or policies. We have institutions, we have a legal framework, we have policies, and we have laws. But what is remaining of us is to translate this into meaningful outcomes. Now, when you look at our development agenda, Uganda in Vision 2040 basically emphasizes good governance, rule of law, political stability, regulatory quality, control of corruption or prevention of corruption. And our institution contributes directly to strengthening integrity, accountability, and citizens' participation when it comes to issues of governance. And when you look at the NDP4, the National Development Plan, it prioritizes strong institutions. We are saying institutions must be strong. Institutions must deliver. Institutions must be able to enforce the anti-corruption laws and improve governance and service delivery. And I like the way Head Service brought it out. How does the ordinary citizen experience government? How does the student experience government? Through quality education. How do people experience this government? And in order for people to experience this government, our responsibility as leaders is really pivotal. It's really pivotal. The IG contributes to Objective 5 when it comes to strengthening good governance. We support the goals of sustainable socioeconomic development through improved accountability. And we talk about transparency, accountability, and anti-corruption in all ministries, departments, and agencies. Now we have the tax strategy, which has been rolled out in all ministries, departments, and agencies. Now, before we move next, still within our development agenda, people have always talked about political will, and political will in the fight against corruption. We, honorable members, political will, like I said to some of you who were in Chankwanzi, political will is actually the oxygen of anti-corruption efforts in this country. Without it, the laws will remain dormant, institutions will remain weak. So as leaders, we must come out to demonstrate this zero tolerance to corruption we are talking about. And we are saying enforcement must be impartial, sparing no one, regardless of their rank, regardless of their status, regardless of their position. Because when we talk about the rule of law, laws apply equally to everybody. It doesn't discriminate that, no, you are a member of parliament, you are a CEO somewhere, you are the director in this institution. It has to cut across equally. The highest offices are expected to set the tone. To set the tone by leading by example, showing by example that corruption will not be tolerated. So when we talk about political will, again, political will transforms anti-corruption from rhetoric to reality. So if we're going to move towards reality, moving away from the academic, legal jargon and discussions, we need real action. We need real action against corruption in this country. When you look at our ministerial policy statement for 2026-27, it's aligned to the 10-fold growth strategy and the 4th National Development Plan, whose overarching goal is to achieve higher household incomes and employment for sustainable economic transformation. But it also supports effective implementation of government investments in industrial development, in science, in technology, in innovations, and so on. So among the stakeholders, or among the enablers, is eliminating corruption, because we cannot see this sustainable economic development without fighting or dealing with the problem of corruption in our country. Now, when you look at the Constitution, the constitutional basis, the 1995 Constitution basically entrusts Parliament with core functions, with core responsibilities, which facilitate the development agenda for this country. And Article 77 establishes Parliament as the national legislative body and sets out its composition as well. And this provides for representation for all Ugandans who speak through you, the members of Parliament, who are their elected leaders. You ought to consult with them on different issues of national concern and bring their views to Parliament. You are therefore their mouthpiece, you're their voices, you're their representation here in the House. Legislation is provided for under Article 79, where Parliament is charged with the responsibility for making laws that promote justice, human rights, and also facilitate development. Now, when you look at Article 90, Article 90 basically provides for the committees of Parliament and empowers them to carry out oversight and accountability functions. And this ensures efficient utilization of public resources and service delivery. And when you move down to Article 152 to 156, you find that Parliament is empowered with authority. Parliament has authority to authorize, to approve, to scrutinize public funds and expenditure. So you, the members of Parliament, are therefore mandated basically to safeguard the taxpayers' resources and ensure that there is value for money. The Constitution entrusts you with lots of power and authority, and you must exercise this with integrity, with accountability, with transparency, so as to gain the public trust we are talking about. If we are to gain public trust and promote efficient service delivery, we must therefore enact clear, fair, and enforceable laws that reflect the public needs, that protect the rights, that uphold the rule of law as well. And as leaders, I read somewhere that leaders are readers. You've got to be readers. You've got to improve the quality of debates in the House. By show of hands, please show me who are coming back, who served in the previous Parliament. By show of hands. Okay, congratulations for coming back as repeaters. Can we have the new members? The new? So the new members have it. So are you ready to enact fair laws, enforceable laws that reflect the public needs, that protect the rights and uphold the rule of law? Before you go into enacting laws, you've got to do detailed research. You've got to read, because leaders are readers. You're representing constituencies. Are you able to represent those constituencies impartially? Are you able to listen to the diverse views of the people and balance the local needs with the public good? Okay, can you tell between what is the local need and what is the public good? Because remember, laws are enacted for the rights of the people, for the public good, to ensure that there is safety, to ensure that there is harmony, to ensure that the mischief is treated in the community? Are you able to exercise oversight? The head service talked about your oversight responsibility. Because the Constitution, I said, is giving you a lot of powers. But as members of parliament, you should be able to exercise oversight of the executive and public institutions through hearings, through inquiries, through budget scrutinies, and review of implementation of these budgets. You cannot scrutinize a document you don't understand. So that means you've got to read deeper, you've got to launch deeper, you've got to widen your knowledge base as members of parliament. To gain public trust and promote effective service delivery, you should be able to craft and approve responsible budgets and allocate resources efficiently and prioritize public service. The public service head service was talking about here, and protect the fiscal sustainability as well for this country. That means you're supposed to think out of the box. You're supposed to think out of the box. Are you able to engage in evidence-based lawmaking with deep consultations of experts, commissions, impact assessments, using reliable data? Can you agree and do some public hearings so that you get the views of the wananchi as well before you go ahead to legislate? Because legislation is not about rushing. Think about the implications of the laws you're doing on the people, on the citizens of Uganda. As members of parliament, we have said the law gives you a lot of powers. The law gives you a lot of authority. But can you exercise that power and authority cautiously? And also build legislative capacity and invest in research. Can you facilitate inclusive participation and balance short-term political pressure with long-term national interests? When we talk about political pressure, I know many of you have invested a lot in getting to be a member of parliament in this country, both financially, your time, your energy. But putting that aside, being a member of parliament is now not a time for payback. Don't say that, nafunirawa. Of course, the clerk to parliament here will facilitate you people very well. All Ugandans know what your income is, what your allowances are, what your emoluments are, and so on. But now it's about the quality service, that leadership with integrity. You have offered yourself, present yourself as a servant leader to the people you are representing in this country. Putting the constitutional basis aside, we now move to the Leadership Code of Conduct. When you look at the Leadership Code of Conduct, Chapter 14 of the Constitution provides for the Leadership Code of Conduct. And Article 233 of the Leadership Code of Conduct basically provides that it requires specified leaders, specified officers, and leaders to declare their incomes, their assets, and liabilities to the Inspectorate of Government every 2 years. It also provides for prohibited conduct, and that prohibited conduct is conduct that is likely to compromise the honesty, the impartiality of specified officers or leaders. And the conduct that is likely to lead to corruption in public affairs, which is detrimental to the public good or welfare or good governance. And the law also prescribes penalties to be imposed for breach of the code without prejudice to the application of criminal penalties prescribed for the breach in question. And it also prescribes powers, procedures, and practices for ensuring that effective enforcement of the code is happening, and it makes other provisions necessary for ensuring that there is promotion and maintenance of honesty, impartiality, and integrity in the conduct of leaders. Now, when you look at the Leadership Code Act, as stated in the preamble, It was basically enacted to provide for a minimum standard of behavior and conduct for leaders, and to require leaders and public officers to declare their incomes, their assets and liabilities, and to put in place an effective enforcement mechanism, and to provide for establishment for the composition, jurisdiction, and functions of the Leadership Code Tribunal, and for other related matters. That is the Leadership Code Act. It is basically providing for the minimum standard. It is saying every leader, every public officer should be able to declare their incomes, their assets and liabilities as provided for within the law. So according to section 4 and 5, a leader is required to submit a declaration within 3 months after becoming a leader. Within 3 months. When did you people take oath? May 15th. So when you took oath, you became a leader in this country. And the law requires that you declare within 3 months. Ladies and gentlemen, I've not come here to threaten you or scare you, but I've come here to offer help. I am